whatever has been given yesterday, please revise that properly. You have that recording in place. If you want to revisit any topic, you can go back and revisit that. So please, this is very, very important. The reason I'm telling you, because if we are not able to understand what is interface, what is class, what is WebDriver, what is Chrome driver, then writing a script will be a little helpless over there. If we are so fundamentals should be strong. That's why yesterday full session we have spent on just making sure that how you understand the architecture of this Selenium. Okay, I mean it was very, very high level. There are lots of things inside that, but for interview purpose and everything, whatever is required, that I have already given you in yesterday's session. So just go through these every day wherever you get time. Uh, just make sure that you revise these things. Just try to see how many methods are there, what methods, what are the signatures of the methods. Everything is given in this documentation. Okay, so this document is your everything. It's your Bible. Okay, for Selenium working. So every time you think anything, you should be referring this. It is having all the details. Why we do this? What is the reason? And everything is mentioned over here. Okay, and that's how we are going to proceed ahead with the implementation as well. Okay, so this is just for the document and reference purpose, because since we are working online and these documents is given by the Selenium only ThoughtWorks, so it's not something that is written by someone else and we cannot trust that. Okay, it's a very, very good document and it holds everything with it. Okay, so moving ahead, then we completed the exercise on the web element. Okay, I told you like WebDriver, we instantiate the class, okay, and we create one object, and we create one object reference as a driver. Once that object reference is created, that object reference will control your browser, whichever is opened over there, and you launch the URL. And then once the URL is launched, we come to know that okay, there are uh, so many objects loaded over there, correct? So I explained you yesterday, like this is the site. There are multiple objects present on this, like these are multiple web elements like image, okay, drop down, then it's a text box, okay, lot many are there. So we have to make sure that we are using everything. Okay, we will study one by one together. And before studying these objects, we have to make sure that how to locate the address of this. Okay, that is very, very important. How to locate address of each object. So I again explained you yesterday that starting from left to right towards bottom, those objects are placed, and the every object is having the specific address. Okay, so the address is called as a relative address and an absolute address. Okay, just a minute. Let me open that document from yesterday. Okay. Okay, and we completed that exercise. Okay, and we call it as object identification technique. Okay, now since we yesterday saw one application like Big Basket, now there are many applications. So those are also having the same methods and same techniques. So any application will have the objects loaded on the page like text boxes, drop downs, okay, option box, check boxes. So let's try to study few of them today. Okay, let's try to study some important things. So yesterday we also see the objects which are already available over the web pages. Okay, so today what we are going to do to start with, we'll go one by one and we'll complete the activities one by one. Okay, and you'll be practicing in with me, so how this input field, how the button works, how the radio button works. Okay, so the first thing, let's find out the address of this. Okay, so yesterday I confirmed that there are two ways. Okay, so first is like we have to give the absolute path. Okay, then the second way is like we have to give a relative path. Okay, absolute path is nothing but it is fixed. Okay, fixed or standard. Okay, which is something dependent on each objects or the layout, but relative path is not like that. Relative path always takes care of the object with specific attribute value pair. Okay, so this also works with attribute value pair, and some of them are not. Okay, so in relative XPath we always have to bring out the attribute, okay, value pair. So why this attribute value pair is required? As I told you yesterday, one object can have many properties, and the best example I can give you yesterday, the parking slot. Okay, so that example is very relative to this. Like how we are going to find out where is the specific object over the location. So this relative path way, this is one way to get out that, and the second way is to get absolute. There is also a third way, which is also called as partial. Okay, partial path. So what does this mean is like partial path is something like combination of absolute plus relative. But it is required somewhat, but usually 90% of the time relative XPath works. Okay, and if that does not works, we need to go with partial. Then if partial also don't work, then we have to go with absolute standard. Okay, that's a hierarchy, we have to use it. Okay, so now let's go one by one. Let's see the text box first. Okay, so this is my text box. Okay, I want to enter something inside this text box. Now I'm doing it manually. So I want to enter something here and I want to click this button. Correct. Similarly, we have plotted down this object. So this is an input field. Okay, input field. It means that it accepts some input. Correct. It's a text box. It accepts something, and that's why it is called as an input field. So anywhere you see text box anywhere in on any page, it will always have an tag name as input. Okay. So how to do that? I yesterday told you that you have to just go and inspect this element. Once you inspect, you will see that this is the row highlighted, and which is see at the top. Again, if I mouse over on this blue row, then again the blue color is highlighting on this object. Correct. So it means that in the document object model, we have loaded the web page, and which is having the HTML references. Okay, these are all the HTML references. Now, as I mentioned, any text box will have tag name as input. So what is the tag name? I told you yesterday, like whenever we uh, see such line, it is always having an input. The first word over here is called as a tag name. Okay, so if I copy, just a minute, copy the element, and if I put it here, so see what does it gives to me. Okay, input. This is the starting tag. Okay, angular bracket. This is a closing angular bracket. Correct, closing angular bracket. So between that, there are two things. What are things are there? If any attribute, okay, any attribute, okay, this is one attribute and it is having some attribute value pair. Okay, so any object will consist of first is like tag name. Okay, and second is the attribute value pair. Okay, this it will contain. So now between these angular brackets, okay, two angular bracket, whatever is written over here, the start of that angular bracket is always called as a tag name. Okay, so this is something a tag name, and whatever is this, okay, if you see the tag name does not have any equal to sign or anything else. It is just representing that if you start this angular bracket, the first word over here will be called as tag name, and followed by that there will be the attribute value pair. Okay, so class is equal to something something. Okay, ng value, this is a class. Okay, these are the class names. Then if you go ahead, so see, one attribute is having multiple values like form control, ng valid. If you see these double quotes, okay, between these double quotes there is a value. So attribute value pair will be always represented something like this. So it will be the attribute, okay, is equal to, between quotes there will be some text, let's say x y z. So it will be always represented like this. So attribute, and instead of this I'll just put value. Okay, so attribute is equal to value. Now how many attributes are present here? One is class. Okay, so let's go back to our document. Then these are the attributes. Okay, now it's distinguished between two. One is mandatory and others are at optional. Okay, so why it is divided? We will go to optional only when we are not sufficing our requirement from using mandatory attributes. Okay, now if I monitor this carefully, so let me just enter it over here. Okay, I will just enter, keep enter. So this is one attribute value, this is second attribute value, then this is ng model is equal to something like that. Again there will be ng change is equal to something. Okay, then there is ng key press, this is attribute value till the quote ends. Okay, it consists as an attribute value. Now over here id is equal to input. Okay, then so if I split it here, and if I then end this bracket, okay, so start of this bracket, okay, class. Now I have just divided this name, okay, this location into its own areas. So if you see, the first over here will be always called as tag name, correct? So I'll just mark it with the comment tag name. This is your attribute value, correct? This is your attribute value, and whatever is present over here, okay, these all are attribute values, all starting from this class name, qa is equal to search bar, type is equal to text over here till this, all are attribute value. And I mentioned one object can contain multiple attribute and value pairs. Same thing, I gave an example of car yesterday with BMW. It is having multiple attributes, like one car can have car color, color is an attribute, value can be anything, red, blue, white, anything. Color is an attribute of the car, then shape of the car is an attribute. Okay, then graphics of the car is an attribute. Okay, so there are multiple attributes attached to one object. So if I consider this as one object, this is my one web element, this complete text box presented over here is my one web element. Okay, now one web element is represented for visibly, it's represented like this, that there is a square box, you can, there is a cursor, you can type something, you can see the letters. Okay, but from the perspective of browser, okay, what browser engine understands, it does not understand this is a rectangle, this has green color line, it is having cursor. It does not understand that language. Browser engine understand this language, okay, like this tags, html tags. So in order to just move ahead, these are some of the various kind of attribute value pairs attached to one object. Now one object over here, single object will have, what will it will have, angular bracket, tag name, then starting from this multiple attribute value pair and a closing bracket. Okay, now tag name, when I mention it over here as a tag name, if there are multiple text boxes, okay, this is one text box, then there might be some other text boxes over here. Okay, so everyone will be having tag name as input, correct? So now the first reference over here is given for any text box. The first reference is tag name is input. Let's move to the mandatory attribute. Now mandatory attribute means if it's a text box and if it's loaded into the document object model, okay, it should have, okay, it should, that's why it is really mentioned over here as a mandatory attributes. It means that it is must. This type is equal to text or email is a must attribute value pair should be present in any text box. Now let's check, do we have that? Okay, this is a tag name, this is our attribute value pair. Okay, QA type is equal to text. Yeah, we found that. So type is equal to text is a mandatory attribute. Mandatory. That's why it is mentioned over here. Type is equal to attribute any text box. So you take any text box. Let me take another example. Let me see if this is having any text box. Okay. Now here there is only one text box. Correct. For example, I just type here fruits. Okay. Now it is going down. It's loading. See, it's spinning, right? Yesterday I told you that document object model takes time from browser engine to take the response and load it. Now see, this is also a text box. Okay, this quantity box is also a text box. Now what it accepts, that's a different story. But for me, it's a text box. Okay. Now if I inspect this text box, okay, let's take another example because it accepts some input for me. That's a text box for me. See, so if I just copy it down, copy the element, if I put it here, okay, just before moving, let me put this here. Okay, so single object will consist of a tag name and attribute value pair, and the structure looks like this. So if I now, this is my second tag. This location from browser engine, I got it for the search bar. Okay. Now this is something, the text box is for like quantity text box. Okay, this is quantity, or I'll just say quantity input. Okay. Now again, if you see, this is having an input tag, correct? By default, I said it is first, whenever it's an input feed, first thing you have to look at it is it an input or not? Yes, it is an input tag. So definitely its tag name is input. If I move ahead, ng model is equal to something something, correct? Move ahead, just split this, you will come to know immediately. Okay, so this is the class name, then this is the style. Okay, now again, what is the second? Just go by left to right. Input tag, we found the input tag name. Okay, now C column, which is the mandatory attribute? Type text, is it present? Type text, yes, type text is present. So that means that take any text box, you search bar or anything, the type is equal to text is a mandatory attribute. Okay, you cannot skip this attribute unless this attribute is present. That text box cannot be completed. That it means that. Okay, so now we have reached to two things. One is the tag name, one is the attribute value pair. And the second thing we completed for mandatory attributes, type is equal to text or email. If it's an email field, you will somewhere find type is equal to email, which is also fine. If it's a password field, you will find type is equal to password as well or text as well. Okay, so there are three combinations which is possible. Okay, so type is equal to text we got in both. Like here also we have type is equal to text, and here's a type is equal to text. Now, according to the Selenium, okay, according to Selenium, what it search for? It search for first type is equal to text, then it's a tag name. And if this combination is not sufficient, okay, if these two combinations are not sufficient, let's say, for example, yesterday I've given you the example of BMW. So first I inform that the car is parked at level 1. So I mean, I have to provide something. Unless I provide something, that person cannot move. So I have to give him some reference that my car is parked at level 1. So that is something called as mandatory. You should always mention that where is your car has been parked. So that becomes an mandatory. Now, even if I did not provide him another optional attributes, okay, one attribute was fine with him. Like where is the parking is equal to value equal to level 1. Uh, for instance, just consider there is no car present over there in parking. Only my car is present. So that guy could have easily gone there in the parking. He could have easily found there is only one BMW. I don't need any other specification. So he could have simply gone with that car, okay, just by mentioning that it's at level 1. But since there are multiple items present or there multiple objects with the same kind look and feel, it is also possible on the web page that multiple text boxes can be present. See, this is a text box, this is a text box. Now there are thousands of text boxes over here. Okay, how you are going to recognize if I want to buy Apple, how you can convey me that I want 5 quantity of apple with this, because I could have entered the quantity over here also, I could have entered the quantity of here also, correct? But if there could have only one product, okay, one product out of, let's say, how many products are there? There's it's a 1689 products under fruits. If the return result could be only one, okay, only one, then it is easy for me that okay, there is only one product and there is only one text box. So mandatory input is fine for me to get that object locator. Okay, are you getting it? So now when to move to optional attributes? Okay, so we saw the mandatory attributes. So when to move to optional attributes? Now, optional attributes are something like in license with the tag name mandatory attributes. If possible, you want, you can use optional attributes, or if you don't want, you don't use it. So it is not mandatory. That's why it's mentioned as an optional. So if you see my example given here, type is okay. Type is text. So now there are two text boxes. Now I cannot simply go and say, okay, there is only one text box. So tag name is input, which is matching for both. Type is text, which is matching for both. But just by using these two, I am not able to recognize out of this which is my text box, because 1689 plus the upper one. So 1690 text boxes are present over the page. Okay. Now this is something what I am telling just based on this result. But is this the case actually? Okay. So how to deal with it? So if you want to check whether these numbers are real, okay, or how many text boxes are present under the page, what you need to do, once you inspect this element, once you go here, you just need to press Control F inside this box, inside this row, Control F, and there will be a bottom text box open. Okay, now there will be a finder. Okay, find by string. Now, in order to find how many input boxes are present, I mean, like how many input tags are present across the page, like there are this page ends, I think there are a lot many objects on this page. Okay, so how many input tags are present on this page? Correct. So if I go in this page only, so how to find that? You have to enter // okay, and just type input. Okay, just type input and just enter. So see what is the count over here? 1704. Okay, so just 1 minute. So total it is giving me just the input tag. How many input tags are available on this page? Correct. Now this is also input tag at left hand side. Okay, if I go a little up, so the one, this is 1689. I could consider that 1690 considering this, and it is giving 704. So there are 14 more text boxes which are present. Okay, so which are those? There might be something somewhere else. Okay, so in all, I have input boxes called as a 1704. So if I go with this input field as a tag name as input, I'm getting a count. You're able to see my screen, right? Where I am pointing my mouse. So 1704 is my count over here, correct? Yeah. So after getting 1704, I'm not actually interested in all. So if you just click enter on this, it will start highlighting how many objects are there present over this. Okay, just a minute. Let me put it here. Correct. So it will start highlighting the objects. Correct. How many input tags are there? And somewhere or the other, it is starting highlighting these boxes. Correct. Now let's move to the next step. So because I want to find my object like this search bar, by just providing this input tag, I may not be able to get it correctly. So now one more field is required, like mandatory attributes, it has to be there. Type is equal to text. So if I go here within the square bracket, I have to put the square bracket at the rate type is equal to single quote text. Now let's see how much it's filtering. Okay, now input boxes type is equal to text is total 252. See the count. It's mentioning over here 252 types. Correct. Now this is also not sufficient for me because there are some text boxes present where the type is equal to text and some of them are not available. Okay. Now definitely I need to move to the optional attributes in that case. Correct. So what is the optional attribute for me? Optional attributes are after tag name and after type equal to text, whatever remains like class, then ID, then placeholder, like these are some additional. Okay, but Selenium looks for these ID, name, class. So out of these optional attributes, does your object contains an attribute value pair for ID, name, and class? So let's check that. So ID, okay, ID I found. Okay, ID is equal to input. Now what's next? Name. Is there anything called as name is equal to something? No, name is, I cannot find it. Name. So it's optional. Okay, so if it's not there, then that is also fine. Class. Do we have class? Yeah, class is there is equal to these many names of the class are present. Okay, till here. So class is there. So out of optional, I can use either ID or either class because name is not present. Now let's check the second. Input tag name is there. Then type is equal to text is there. Class is there. There is no ID and no name. There is no ID, no name. So only remains with me is class for the second object quantity. Correct. Now what will happen if I choose ID from this, like ID is equal to input. Now, instead of this type, because I know that type is equal to text is already present. Now that is not sufficing my requirement. So what I will do, I will simply go and type something like this. ID is equal to input. ID is equal to input. Now let's see whether I'm getting, yeah, it is highlighting one object. If you see the object at the top, search for products. Okay, ID is equal to input. Why? If you see, if I gather this data, ID is equal to input is only present in the search bar and ID is equal to input. I mean, there is no ID tag present over here for all quantity boxes. You take any quantity box, will not find an ID present for this. So whether my requirement is sufficing over here with ID is equal to input, yes. So if you want to find a unique locator, your count should always return 1 of 1. Okay, always. In any time you work on any object like text box, drop down, then you work on your image, link, whenever you are working, whenever you want to find a unique locator, always you have to find the result should return from the browser is like 1 on 1. It means that this is the only object present on the page. No more object with this combination is present, and that is called as, sorry, and that is called as a relative XPath. Okay, so if I go to this section by having the attribute value pair, this is my relative XPath. Okay, now to write a XPath, there is a technique. Okay, now what is an XPath? How to write that XPath? Okay, this I'll just explain you quickly. I have already that document. Okay. So see this one. Sorry, I'll put it here. Okay. So now input, I have constructed this XPath. Okay, ID is equal to input. This is the input type. What does these two line means? Whenever you find an address, correct? I mean, I will consider this as an address for my search bar. Okay, simple enough. Everyone on same page?
Yeah.
Okay, rest of the people. Okay. Yeah, I think the fourth candidate also joined today, right? Is it Manjusha?
Yes, yes. Hello.